Daniel, I don't know if this is our Daniel R or not, but it says tots on MicroStrategy and the leverage plays until Q2, Q3, 2025. I mean, as much as I want to stop talking about MicroStrategy right now, it's the hot topic. So you just have to understand here. Forget about the price of MicroStrategy. Forget about how much it's gone up this cycle. I know that's usually like the case where people are like, okay, well, it's already gone up 600% this year, so it can't go up anymore. That's not the case at all here. What Saylor is doing, what MicroStrategy is doing, is unlike anything anybody has ever seen before. So let's just start there. Basically, what he's doing, he's shorting the fiat system. He's providing a vehicle for the fiat system to get access to Bitcoin. That's all he's doing. And people call that a pyramid scheme, but that's how every person, every entity works the same. If you objectively look at the ins and outs of what's happening there, everybody does that in life. But now he's holding a Bitcoin instead of fiat. So you know what? Like, if you think Bitcoin's going to go from 98,000 to 10x, maybe a million in this cycle, MicroStrategy shares are going to do the exact same thing. So forget about the price of it. If you have money in the system, just get MicroStrategy because it's going to go up in the same equivalent. Regardless, there will probably be another stock split between then and now if that happens, if Bitcoin rips. So there's a lot of things to consider there. And I think that the one thing that MicroStrategy is doing right now that very few people comprehend, they're basically front running every country on earth. That's what's happening. That's why they're in such a panic to get so much Bitcoin right now. And that's pretty much the only metric that you have to look at. You have to look at the total amount of Bitcoin that they're going to be holding after this. Forget about the yield, forget about all that other bullshit, forget about the timing of everything. When one entity holds 500,000 Bitcoin, the amount of leverage and power that they're going to be able to utilize that Bitcoin for is out of this world. Out of this world, truly. That's going to be the metric. That's what everybody is going to look at on the balance sheet is how much Bitcoin are you holding? What can you do with that Bitcoin? And then you also have to, like, you take it further and you say, okay, well, maybe MicroStrategy ends up with 500,000 Bitcoin. In 10 years, those are going to be worth a lot, for one. But you have to also keep in mind the amount of supply that's going to be available in those 10 years, because this is so unlike anything that we've ever seen before in terms of Bitcoin. A scarce asset with a fixed supply. We've never seen that before. So that's why people say all the models are destroyed, because it's true. We've never seen anything like this before. So let's say that in 10 years from now, there's only 1,000 Bitcoin for sale every day because there's such a short supply of new Bitcoin coming on and so much demand. 1,000 might even be high. So then Saylor might just start selling some of those Bitcoin. Maybe he takes 10% of the Bitcoin, he starts selling that Bitcoin, buying businesses that are generating more cash flow, sats flow, reinvesting that into Bitcoin. So maybe he sells some. Maybe he starts buying back some shares to increase the sats per share even more and to take away some of the dilution in the shares. Like, MicroStrategy is hooked up to a rocket ship that is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the fuel. MicroStrategy is the vehicle that's allowing that to flow across the world. So I think it was American HODL I heard say that it was John Rockefeller that, with the crude oil, he was 70 years old when the Model T came out, when Henry Ford invented the first vehicle, the Model T. Up until then, the oil was almost unusable. And so what Henry Ford did was he gave it a vehicle. He allowed it to be what it is today. So it took a while. But that crude oil, think of that like Bitcoin. I thought it was a perfect analogy from American HODL, because that's essentially what Saylor's doing with Bitcoin, what Henry Ford did with oil. But unlike the oil, Rockefeller doesn't own it all. Well, Saylor's going to own a big chunk of it, but we can hold some of that. Nobody could own, like, oil that they could sell into the market. But you can do that with Bitcoin now. So MicroStrategy is basically the vehicle that's going to allow it to flow. It's going to provide that next step of utility. So, I mean, you can't go wrong. It's not like you're going to buy MicroStrategy today and it's going to be worth less in a year from now, right? It's just you have to look at your own portfolio. You have to balance it properly. You have to think about the tax implications of that. But again, at the end of the day, your goal, if you have any free cash flow, should be Bitcoin on layer 1 in cold storage that you have the keys to. MicroStrategy is breaking Wall Street. Yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible. He's basically shorting fiat and winning big time. So it's going to be a race. It's going to be a race to accumulate Bitcoin. And MicroStrategy is light years ahead of every company and every country on earth. So you cannot go wrong, assuming that they hold on to the Bitcoin. The one thing that I would like to see with MicroStrategy, though, and this is probably why I won't buy any more MicroStrategy until this happens, but the one thing I would like to see from MicroStrategy is more transparency. I know they're a public company. I know they have to disclose how much Bitcoin they have every quarter, but I would still like to see a website where you can go and see the wallets that they're holding, and you can see the balances in there. Because we can see how many shares are outstanding, and if we could see how many Bitcoin they hold, I think that would give a lot more people like me more faith and trust. I'm not saying they don't have the Bitcoin. I'm saying I would like to see it. And when they provide that, when they set up a website like El Salvador has, where it shows how much Bitcoin they have at any given moment, that's when I'll buy more MicroStrategy. But until then, I'll just sit back and relax.